My name is Angela, and I was empowered by reading the book Shut the Hell Up.
Well, Angela, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Shut the hell up. What did you think about when you heard that title?
It was a very provocative title. I believe that was the intention, or at least that's my theory behind it, because it alone has the ability to stop people in their tracks when they come across it, especially if it's listed as something that's in the religious section. It would at least make them think twice or run fast past it. But the thought is that hopefully it would cause them to think. So it's something that goes against the norm of what typical Christianity would have us think. And to say shut the hell up, you're basically cursing at someone. And this is so much farther than that, that it's not even in reality close to what the title would trigger in some people's mind. And so I thought it was good at grasping the attention, but then once I read it, it was such a perfect title to match for what you were trying, or what the author was trying to convey. How do we shut the hell up out of our lives? So
That's beautiful. Thank
great.
you. Thank you for that. It sounds like, when you read it, whatever you thought when you heard the title, there was something in the book that was clearly different than that.
Mhm.
What was one thing about this book that you read and it really surprised you?
Um, if I had to think about what surprised me the most, it was the confirmation that God speaks and settling that in our lives, because in I would like to think that my upbringing was not atypical from what a um, a typical Christian upbringing would be, and that because of that, it was heavily influenced into the Christian culture as it stands today. And the notion that God speaks is something that was saved for Bible study, or something that was saved for Sunday school, when we were taught the lessons of God speaking to specific Old Testament and even New Testament personalities. And the fact that it would happen today is something that's not necessarily championed as much. Although you would typically hear people that say, well, God told me this, but then when you really spoke to them and what it was that they were saying, it was more toward, it just so happened that it was conveniently geared towards what it was they were thinking, and not necessarily that it was in line with what God would want. And so to know that God speaks, and to be able to listen for his voice when he speaks, and to recognize it when our ears may have been deafened for so long, and to realize that he's been out there the entire time, and it was us who was away, listening at least, from hearing, and that we were able to come back and to hear him, and to have at least the confirmation to know that he is still a living and present God that wants to commune with us. I think that was the most surprising confirmation.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Other than what you just shared,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything that you read in this book that you think you will remember for perhaps a long time to come, perhaps for the rest of your life?
Um, One of the things, change your story, change your life. It was a brief sentence that was written, and it sets the tone for the entire book. Um, I hadn't. This book has impacted me in more ways than one, and in full disclosure, it had been a while since I had picked up the book. I had read it over, basically a year ago. But even still, going through week after week, chapter after chapter, each chapter transformed me to the point that, there's a soul shift, or there's a shift in personality, in that the way you do things are no longer the way that you did them. And as a result of that, it's something that, when I picked it up again, at first I was like, yeah, I've already read it. What do I need to do this again for? And I was like, no, that's not the case, because although I've been transformed in the story that I tell myself, and that's the most important thing that I could have gotten out of the book, is what is the story that you're telling yourself? Stop believing the lie. That has transformed me to transform others. And I think that's the biggest impact. I recently had a young family member who was dealing with the crisis in school, to the point where she said that, she was considering hurting herself, or taking things into her hands in a drastic measure. And we had the conversation about, whose story are you believing? And she said that, well, sometimes I get these thoughts that tell me that, I'm no good and I don't need to be there. I said, but that's a lie of the enemy. That's not what God says that he has for you. And you have to stop the lie. And you have to confront it, challenge it, and replace it with what God's word says for you. And for you, and for this book, I say thank you for giving me the transformative power to be able to not only transform myself, but to speak it into others' lives as well. And so I'm extremely grateful, but I know that even still, this cannot be a one-time effort. I know I have to go through the process again. Just like going up the discipleship mountain, yes, I've been changed, but I've only been changed maybe from step 1 to step 3. And I need to I need to read the book again in order to determine, God, how are you going to reveal yourself to me this time around to take me even higher up, so that I can still not only be transformed myself for my own benefit, which is a good thing, but also for others.
That's wonderful. So as one who ministers to others, can you see an application of this book in book studies or Bible studies or church groups? If there's maybe a pastor who is considering getting this book for a group in their church, what do you think? Is there an application there?
I think that the book in and of itself is just step 1. And that beyond that, there should be, Bible studies. There should be workshops. There should be seminars. There should be something that enables the word to go out, and not just a one-time, 1-hour thing, but over multiple weeks, so that's able to sink in and to become a part of their persona, so that they're able to be transformed as well. But yes, it's not just a single reading that you just highlight certain passages and say, oh, this is good. It has to sink down into the heart. And so, yes, step 1, well done, but it's not the end.
That's beautiful. That's good. We hope to work on some of those resources to help churches and other organizations, small groups and so forth, be able to take this and really process it into the life of the group. Who do you think this book is for? If you had to say this book is for a certain type of person, who do you think this book is for?
I don't want to leave anyone out. I really don't. I do know that there will be skeptics that will just, rebuke it. There may be some who are so heavily ingrained into the culture of Christianity that they see shut the hell up, and that they just turn their back away and say, you're cursing at me, I'm not going to even open up the page. Those are probably the ones that need to read it the most. But for those who are struggling with hurt, those who have believed the lie and are carrying it with them on a daily basis, thinking that they can't get out of it, I would encourage them to just take a moment to stop and to just dive in and to read that there is a different path forward, one that frees you from the lie, one that enables you to live the life that God would have you to lead if you would just stop the lie.
That's awesome. I see you have some notes there with you.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Do you have some things that you read in the book that resonated with you that you'd like to share with our listeners, viewers today?
Yes, please. I have on several, and so if you need to stop me, just tell me you've read enough. The first one is in chapter 3, Mastering Internal Voices. And I'll just read snippets. It says, how do we deploy and interrupt when internal voices are bombarding our minds? How do we shut down the inner assault of suggestive thoughts co-signing with our weaknesses? Psalms 107 offers a clue. The psalmist writes, "Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so, whom he has redeemed from the hand of the enemy." And that was just the setup for saying how we need to turn our focus away from our situation, away from the voice, towards God, focusing on him, and then letting the redeemed say so by just replacing the lie with the truth. Another thing, page 106. And this was The Weightiest Voice, chapter 5. You notice how I'm honing in on all of those inner voice sections. So that's what weighed the most with me.
That's great.
So it says the weightiest voice is whatever we receive, cultivate, and allow to influence the story we tell ourselves. My inner voice is the weightiest. Your inner voice is yours. What you choose to say to yourself is your choice. No one can make you change your inner story. You are in complete control. Remember, however, that you will live by the fruit of what you say, even if you choose not to glorify God with your inner conversations. I mean, I could just drop this at that point and not go any further, because that had the most impact on me in recognizing how to recognize that what I'm feeding, what I'm sowing into myself is harvesting fruit. And what kind of fruit am I harvesting? And that's what we all have to recognize. And that's the only way that we can shut the hell up that's in our lives, is by replacing those seeds with seeds of what God says about us, and replacing those lies with new seeds that garner eventually new fruit.
That's good. That's good. Come on.
I just have one more on, I had to go to the second, it was too big. I had to go to a second section. And this was in chapter 10, to release the truth, first stop the lie. And I won't read the entire thing, but just the point to where we get to stop. It says, to successfully shut the hell up, transforming believers must stop, S-T-O-P, the lies to begin releasing the truth. STOP is a simple acronym that outlines an even simpler process. Line drawing, dust shaking, Christians must silence the noise of distracting voices, take a moment to detect the lies in their inner story, open their minds to the truth before they speak, and pursue the truth at all costs. Once they stop the lies, they can change their inner story.
That's great.
Thank you for that. I think this book is for everyone, but I'd like to focus in or hone in on the ones who are struggling, those who are dealing with depression or anxiety or just feeling not good enough. And if you've happened to stumble across this book, Trust and believe it was God ordained, because you don't have to do that. You have been feeding yourselves lies, whether you recognize it or not. And those lies, as they have been ingrained in your heart, have led you to where you are today. But now you have a chance to change the story. Dive in. Read everything, every word on every page. And trust me, you will come out a different person, recognizing that the lies that you told yourself have no place in your heart and have no place in your life, and that you can replace those lies with the truth of God's word, and that he's just waiting for you to receive. Taste and see. It's good.